In the dream, there are men in my house with black shoes on. And then suddenly, as dreams go, I have a baby and I'm looking at this little infant girl and she says, I want you to name me Molly. And I said, oh, honey, Molly is such a boring name. And she said in the dream so effusively that it woke me up, I want to have a boring name.
Welcome to the Curious Soul Podcast. I'm Cristina Malavenda.
And I'm Marty. We're two best friends exploring the deeper meaning of life
and the moments that connect us all.
Hi, Cristina.
Hi, Marty.
How are you?
I'm good. How did you sleep last night?
Last night was actually pretty great. I went to sleep at 11. I woke up at 7:30. That is a very, very rare occurrence for me to sleep that long and not wake up 500 times in the middle of the night as I'm insomniac. Last night was a success. What about you?
For me, what's so fun with sleeping is my dreams. They've always been so vivid and so sometimes they come true, sometimes they're recurring. And I've always felt like it's kind of like my superpower. The one thing that is new that I just discovered is that you can intentionally play around with your dreams. So before going to bed, you could set an intention for something that you want clarity on or information or whatever. Even if you just want to have a fun time in a specific way, set that intention. You'll get that in response. The reason that I did it the first time, setting an intention before I went to bed, was because my good friend Crystal was telling me about Lisa, who is our guest today, and she is a dream doula who helps creative women connect more deeply with their dreams. Through intuition, creativity, and lived experience, she guides them to see their dreams as a source of insight and communication, something alive, responsive, and deeply meaningful. Hi, Lisa. How are you doing today?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm fantastic.
We're so excited to have you here today. And one of the things that Marty and I love to talk about are dreams. And what was the moment where you went, wow, that dream is so incredible, or a moment or experience where you were like, dreams are so powerful. I have the opportunity, and everybody has the opportunity to find guidance or to work with dreams to really do something with our lives.
Such a good question. When I was 4, I had a dream that was lucid. I'm walking, it's raining, and I'm underneath my auntie's deck who live next door, and I can feel the water dripping on my head, and I can see water under my feet on this patio kind of pooling up, and I look over my shoulder, and there's rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub. Not cartoons, no, real men in a big barrel. One of them is scrubbing his back and bubbles are coming over the edge of the barrel, and another one's smoking a cigar. The cigar smoking dude says to me, hey, little girl, come over here. And I said, no. And he said, yes, you have to. And in the dream, I put my hands on my hips and I said, I don't have to do anything. This is my dream, and if I want to, I can just wake up. And he said, no, you can't. And I said, watch me. And I closed my eyes as tight as I could. And when I opened them, I was in my bed. And I thought, I'm going back and I'm going to say neener, neener, neener. So I went right back to sleep, but I did not go back into that dream. I'm 4. I don't know about dreams. No one talks to me about dreams. They're like, oh, it's just a bad dream, honey. Fast forward many years. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm pregnant with my first kid. And I'm having midwives that are going to come to the house and deliver the baby. I dream I'm having the baby. In the dream, there are men in my house with black shoes on. And I'm thinking, this is weird. Men, black shoes, women, midwives, what's going on here? And then suddenly, as dreams go, I have a baby and I'm looking at this little infant girl. She morphs into a 12-year-old and says, I want you to name me Molly. I'd been arguing with my husband the night before about what to name the baby. And he listed off all these names, which happened to be ex-girlfriend's names. I'm like, no way in hell. Went to bed so mad. So in the dream, she turns into a 12-year-old. She goes, I want you to name me Molly. And I say, oh, honey, Molly is such a boring name. And she said in the dream so effusively that it woke me up, I want to have a boring name. And I woke up and I was like, whatever, what a weird dream. And I wrote it down and forgot about it. A few months later, I go into labor. I call my sister, who's a birth doula. I said, you can come now. She gets to my house. She goes, are the midwives on their way? No. Is your husband on his way? No. She starts calling people. 911 is called. Suddenly there are men in my house with black shoes on. Okay. I'm not thinking anything. I'm just like, having a baby, right? Then when the midwives came and said, I had a baby like 20 minutes after they arrived. It was a rushed birth, but they're like, talk to your baby, talk to your baby, talk to your baby. I look, and it's exactly the scene from the dream. It looks exactly like the baby I saw in my dream. And so I said, hi, Molly. It was so amazing and interesting. And that I'd been writing down my dreams and thinking about my dreams, but that one really blew my mind.
That is incredible.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
I don't normally have premonition dreams. A lot. I talk to people who do dream what happens in the future, and it happens regularly to them with like random things they know that they don't know why they know it.
Regarding your story, my father named me an ex-girlfriend. So I'm named after one of his ex-girlfriends. And it wasn't until I was 15 that he told me, don't tell your mom, but you're named after my ex-girlfriend.
Well, when I had that argument with my husband, where I was like, what do you think about indigo or Terra? Spelled like the earth. I was just thinking out all these wacky names, and he was like,
Yeah.
how about Susan or Sharon or Molly? And I was like, wait a minute.
Wow.
Wouldn't be ex-girlfriends. And he's like, well,
Yeah.
but they're good names. Okay. Wow. So
You can sense it.
It's like the only place that they could pull inspiration from, right? They're like, they can't think outside the box. They're just like going
it
back
was,
to like what they know. It's interesting that you say premonition, because I was thinking this morning and thinking about the dreams that I've had that have come true. I wonder if there's a different word than premonition, right? Because there's so many details that you had in your dream about your daughter. It wasn't just the name. It was that she looked like the baby. It was the men in the house. It was like everything. There's so many specific moments that tied to it. And they're all good. They're all pretty much good things, right? So one, what does it mean? Where does it come from? What should we be calling those things that end up coming true from dreams if they're not bad things?
where do dreams come from? That's a deep question, because science is showing us really clearly now that our consciousness is not created in our brain. Yet our brain goes into certain patterns of brain waves when we're dreaming. And so does that just mean we're like tuned in? We're plugged into the internet of the everything? I believe that some dreams are coming from our higher consciousness, or you might say God or the universe or the all that is. Some dreams are bubbling up from our subconscious, and we're just like working out stuff that happened that day. If you watch a lot of TV right before you go to sleep, you might just finish that TV show in your dream. Or you might be working on a problem that you're trying to solve in day-to-day life. I think a lot of people are getting messages that are subtle and also not as, I don't know, realistic or specific as my dream about Molly, but they're getting this idea that they should do something or they shouldn't do something. It's like their inner guidance coming to visit them at nighttime.
Along those lines, so I've always heard that when we go to sleep at night and we're dreaming, our spirit goes off and it's learning and it's like with our spirit family and we're like discussing all the things that we've experienced, but we're not conscious of it, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that during those times, maybe our higher consciousness is sending those very vivid, direct messages? Do you think that's possible? Like they're trying to connect our higher selves with our reality selves through those dreams?
Yes. And have you heard about the technique that Thomas Edison and Salvador Dali and I think um, Albert Einstein used to find
I think so, yeah.
answers to they're stuck in a problem like a difficult scientific problem,
Mhm.
or they're working on an invention. Or for Salvador Dali, he was just a interesting artist, and so they would go to this liminal state on purpose.
Yes.
They called it, I think Edison called it the land of solution. So he'd be stuck in a problem and he would sit in a comfortable chair in his studio with ball bearings in his hands and buckets underneath, I've read.
Yeah.
And he would ponder the question, the problem, looking for a solution, fall to sleep. And when he fell asleep enough that his hands relaxed and he woke himself up, he would write down what he was dreaming about in his workbook. Salvador Dali would draw what he was dreaming about in his
Wow.
sketchbook. And clearly, those people and others believe that there's a consciousness we can tap into when we're not wide awake. That we go into some other, it's not meditation, it's not really deep sleep, but it's that liminal space between awake and asleep that you can go to on purpose to
I truly
get
believe that.
ideas. Yeah,
Have you ever done that before?
I have. Did I get a very brilliant idea? I don't do it regularly enough to say that it works for me. I mostly do dream incubation. So I'll say, if I'm working on a problem or an issue, I'll say, I'll kind of say a prayer before night. I'll go, Mother, Father, God, guides and angels from the other side, please come to me in dreamland and tell me what to do about this. Tell me in a clear way, close to when I wake up, so I remember it. Because my dream
Amazing.
last night was the middle of the night. I woke up, I was like, should I write it down now? That's just a blah, blah, blah dream. But now this morning, I think it's pretty funny. You know how you could put a whole bodysuit on, maybe out of cloth, but I was trying to put a bodysuit out of rhinestones on people, and they weren't sticking. And I was thinking, should each one be pushed on with some kind of glue? Like I was like working that out. I was like, why am I putting rhinestones on people? Oh, I help people shine. But it's like the dumbest image. Like all night, I was like, is it in a suit? Do I zip it
But that
up?
makes
Do I stick
perfect
them
sense.
on?
Yes. Can we back up a little bit? I would love to
Yeah.
hear how you became a dream doula, what inspired you. I've never heard of it. I've heard of death doulas, I've heard of birth doulas, but can you explain to us how you became a dream doula?
Yeah, it's really a simple conversation over lunch in Ojai. I moved to Ojai from Seattle, and a guy from the newspaper wanted to sell me some advertising, and he's like, "So I think you're so interesting," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Well, I'm a life coach and an artist." He goes, "Don't say that, life coach. Everybody's a life coach in SoCal." And my girlfriend and I had already talked about how I help people with the dreams and goals they have in life so they can go toward it. And I love to talk about dreams. And so right then I just went, I guess I'm a dream doula. And I coined the term, I think, and here I am. It's so fun because if you talk to someone like, what are your big goals and dreams? They're like, get away from me. You're creeping me out. If you say, do you have a dream to share? They're like, yeah. I have a booth at the farmer's market here on Thursdays, and people can come tell me a dream for 5 minutes. And I hear the most interesting stories.
Can you tell us one of the most interesting ones you've heard?
Yes, a woman told me she used to live somewhere in the Midwest where the weather was tornado-ish. Tornadoes were a regular thing. But for 30 or maybe even 40 years, she had a recurring dream that she was in her childhood home and a tornado was coming and she was really scared and like hide in the cellar, do this, like they were boarding up the windows. This dream continued. And she's like, what's it mean? I mean, it could be real. I mean, tornadoes did come. And I said, what was your family situation like? Was it really kind of crazy and unsettled? Like a storm? She's like, "Oh, yeah. I had a really wacky family in not a good way." And so for her, this childhood dream, which continued way into adulthood, was about her family.
Wow.
being this really dysfunctional group of people like a storm.
That makes
What's
sense.
interesting about recurring dreams is once you figure out the message, it doesn't need to come back anymore. You don't have it. It leaves you.
Wow. I have one that's a recurring, very, very similar to what you just said, and it kind of like had a little light bulb as you were saying it because I didn't really know what it meant either until you literally just said it. So, Christine and I both grew up in South Florida. It was constantly flooding, always hurricanes. I had a recurring dream as a child where alligators would be swimming outside my house, and my house was made full of windows. There's windows everywhere, and the water would be like up above the windows, and outside the windows I could see the alligators swimming around always. And I'm just, we're starting to board the windows. Me and my mom and my brother and sister are huddling together. We've got candlelight all the time, but I'm always so scared because I'm like, don't let the alligators in, don't. And that was a recurring dream, and the alligators would always be around me. You just said a crazy, like, childhood. Yes, that's exactly what mine was. And I just thought it was just like, the dangers that were coming. I don't know. I'm scared of alligators, but that makes complete sense. Like, I found my refuge in my brother, my sister, my mom, but my dad was never there.
Yeah, and so
And so
where
that makes sense.
was the protector provider of the family? Nowhere. And
Mom
alligators are coming
was,
and be scared.
no, my
Yeah,
mom was the
wow.
protector. My dad was the danger. So,
Oh yeah, so
yeah.
it could be like don't let the dad in. Another woman told me a dream. She was married to a really abusive man who also was friends with all the local policemen. So she
Wow.
had a dream that she lived in a glass house on the ocean and the tide was coming up. And it was like a 3-story house. So she'd like, the tide's coming up, it's coming up. It's on the first floor. She had to go up to the second floor. The tide's coming up, coming up. And then she's on the second floor. The tide's coming up all the way. She runs to the third floor and wakes up in a fright. She had this dream over and over and over again until she left this abusive man.
Oh,
And
that
so it
gives me
was like the
chills.
rising tide was not a good thing for her in that dream analogy.
How do you like sometimes it's the dreams can make sense like in retrospect, right?
Yeah.
How do we actually use them in the moment to try to understand what we're going through?
Well, such a good question. I finally figured out how it works for me to write my dreams down. I keep a journal by my bed and a
Mhm.
pen, and I write down 4 things in my dream journal. What day is it? 2, where am I in the world in case I'm traveling? 3, what's happening in my waking life that I'm concerned about? Maybe I need to fix my car or somebody's having an argument with me or something's going really wrong. Whatever I'm troubled with, I write that down. Then the dream in as much detail as possible. You can then just put it away. Maybe think about it during the day. Maybe you don't need to. But if you go back to a dream a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, and it's written down like that, you'll be like, totally get the message. I mean, the message is already in there in your subconscious. You don't always necessarily have to unpack it in your conscious mind. But I want to go back to something Marty said earlier, how when we sleep and our soul just, because I believe the theory that our soul self is partially in our body, but it's too big to really be in our body and it's everywhere else. I
Mhm.
once woke up and I realized right before I woke up that I was in multiple different conversations, either learning multiple things or talking to multiple different people, and like 5 or maybe 10. And then I felt myself wake up by going into this
Wow.
one singular person. I was like, oh, and of course it wasn't like a dream. I couldn't remember any of what I was out learning or doing, but I really had that conscious reality of like swooping back into myself. And then I was awake. I was like, wow,
That is
that was so
incredible.
weird. That was
That is
so weird. I've only had that once.
I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday about how, like, back in the day when we didn't have any electricity and we would just go to bed when it was dark and we would wake up when it was light and we would lie in the dark and we would process things differently and we would, like, have a certain kind of higher consciousness because we were just with ourselves more intimately, more deeply. And I think that dreams offer us that opportunity to access that. I think there's so many different ways to still tap into that. And dreams is just one of those things, right? And I just think that there's so much opportunity for us to like really lean into it and see what we're experiencing. And it may be one time that we get that, it's like the Molly story, like, but it's such a big one, and it's your kid. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity, but sometimes there's certain people that may not be able to not be able to dream, but they may not dream as vividly as some other people. What would you say to those people that may not have as vivid experiences?
I have people tell me regularly, I don't dream. And
Really?
brain scans have shown that unless you're on some kind of medication medication that keeps you from dreaming, a sleep aid or something like
Mm.
that, every one of us dreams between 1.5 and 2 hours every night. Now, if we remembered 2 hours of a dream, that'd be exhausting. It'd be like you went to the movies every night. Whoa! So some people just aren't tapped in. They don't remember their dreams. If you get up for 10 minutes and you've had a dream that you might slightly remember, that dream is gone. 10
Mhm.
minutes later, it's poof, it's gone. But 99% of people who talk to me and say, I don't dream, next time I see them, they're like, you won't believe it. I had a dream. I'm like, yeah, I believe it. So I think it's just paying attention. It's paying attention to the first 10 minutes of being awake. Did you have a dream? Did you write it down? Do you want to ponder it later or not? The more you do that, the more you can notice that you did have a dream.
It's like being more aware of something so you notice it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
How do you remember your dreams? And like, how do you dream more? Because even if you're talking to people and they say, no, I never dream, and then they come back and say they had a dream, like, why are they all of a sudden having a dream? Is it just because they're paying attention?
Yes, because they probably have been dreaming their entire life and then pretending like they don't or not noticing it. So what's helpful for people is to keep a journal by their bed and write in the first 10 minutes of waking up. If you need to go to the bathroom first, do that. Otherwise, sit and try to remember your dream and write it down. Sometimes you might wake up and think, I was dreaming, but I don't remember what that was now. And you can roll back over into the position you were sleeping in when you were dreaming, and the dream often floods right back into your
Mm.
consciousness. There are other people who have crystals. They have a special crystal next to their bed, and they believe that when they get up and hold the crystal, that the crystal has their dreams in it and the dreams will
Mm.
come back. So whatever you want to uh, use as a tool, it could be a crystal, it could be a dream pillow. There's a famous Christian mystic, who wrote, every evening when I open my bed, the dreams from last night flood back into my consciousness.
Wow.
Thomas Merton said that. So obviously he was a person who meditated and prayed a lot, and he thought that the dreams were still in the bed that he left. Isn't that a
That's
beautiful idea?
beautiful.
It's
I
beautiful.
love that. So I have a question on um, your background and then how you became a dream doula and how you help others achieve
Uh-huh.
their dreams. So just reading more on you, I love that you've went from different careers, very brave, courageous, very non-traditional jobs, which you can speak on more. But I loved seeing that you've done that and then ventured into the dream doula. How do you help others, search their subconscious, find those dreams just as you've done, and then make those a reality?
Well, you know what? Someone asked me this recently, like, why did you become a coach and how did you get into dreams? I'm like, I don't, I think that it's my superpower that I've had my entire life. People have told me things. Even when I was a real estate broker, I managed an office with 65 agents and 7 staff. And someone asked me one day, what do you do? And I said, oh, I make people cry. I'm like, what? People would come into my office, the staff or the guys that were like these tough real estate brokers, and I would say, "How are you?" And I remember one day this man just burst into tears and said, "My daughter doesn't talk to me anymore, and she's a teenager, and she ran away, blah, blah, blah." And then I always had a box of tissues under my desk, and I handed them to the tissues, and they apologized for breaking down and asked me his real question, which was something about a real estate deal. And I thought, okay, wow. That happened to me when I worked on boats. It happened to me when my whole life, just people told me their stories. And now I seem to know how to guide them to their own wisdom,
Mm.
which is sometimes in dreams. So if I think everybody knows what they should do next or what they shouldn't do. They're called to be a certain way in life. And sometimes society tells us we can't do that. So we're like, I won't do that. I talked to somebody yesterday. She said, I'm a nurse, but I didn't want to go to nursing. I wanted to go into sales. When I was going to college, I wanted to study business. And my parents said no. So
Mm.
I'm a nurse. And my mom's a nurse, and my granddad was a doctor, and my brothers are both doctors. So for her, is her beautiful best life being a nurse? Maybe not, but
Are
she's
they
going
Filipino?
there.
Can I ask you that? Because that's very Filipino.
There was immigrants from another country, but yes,
Okay.
it would be very, very Filipino. Uh, so, sometimes when I help people, they blow up their life a little bit to go for what they really would love. And it's never too late to do that. I work with people
Yes,
that
I
are,
believe that. Yes.
yeah, yeah. But you have to be brave, and you have to know that you have the answers. Because if you start telling people around you that have seen you be a nurse your whole life, and you're like, I'm going to be in high ticket sales now. This is going to be so fun. They're like, what? You're
I
going to
cannot
what?
believe, I cannot describe to you how much I feel that. So my mom's a doctor, my dad's a nurse. Every Filipino I know is in the medical field. No shade to that, because you know what? It's very stable. And if you love helping people in that way, love it. I've gone a totally different creative path. I wanted to be filmmaker, which is like, so my mom, dad, no, 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 that is dangerous. You're going to go poor. You're going to go hungry. You'll never be happy. And yes, finding that bravery was so hard. Have you ever had people that were so blocked from maybe like, their parents or their grandparents telling them no, no, no? And like, how did you help them unblock those blocks and subconsciousness and those influences from family? Like, what are some methods you would say to people to unblock those things?
Oh, we go pretty deep in in the processes that I help people with. But when we're working on that, first of all, they dream up a dream that is so amazing they can't believe they can do it. Like they need help from a higher power. And so we're already going for something that makes them a little bit uncomfortable. And then all the things that come up, which people might call paradigms, are just beliefs that you've had so long you think they're true. You might have gotten them from your parents or your ancestors or the people that you worked with up until now. And the biggest tool that I have for people is to notice what you notice or notice what you're noticing. So as you're going through life and a paradigm comes up, most people are just like, oh, they don't even think about what they're telling themselves, but your body feels icky.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Yes, keep going.
So you feel like some people get a stomach ache or a headache, or some people actually make themselves sick, like they have to lay down because they have the flu or something. They are coming up against a mistaken belief that is so powerful. Their psyche doesn't want to let go of it. Sometimes I can't help people when they're to a place that they really need to go to therapy over, maybe do EDMR or some other
EMDR, yeah.
kind of therapy. But for most people, they're like, "Oh, I never thought about that." It's a paradigm shift. So all up until now, I tell people they can say, "People in my family don't do that." Like, up until now. People in my family didn't do that. So you can stop yourself from thinking it. You can notice that you're thinking it, and you put a new thought inside of your
Wow.
thought process.
You know what I love about that too is that you are able to open that door for people because they are surrounded by voices that have said, no, that's not a possibility.
Yes.
And to then have a new perspective of like, I did it too. I did it and look at how happy I am. Why don't you join me in this happiness? And I think that's so important.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful because when people say I can't blow up my life, I'm like, well, I did it.
Yep.
I mean, I did a coaching program to become certified during COVID times, and when I did this vision of my future, I saw myself living in a small town with a nice climate and groovy people, being a coach and an artist, and I got out of that meditation. I'm like, what the F? I'm in Seattle and it's raining. And then I just decided where to move and blew up my life and moved here. And now
Oh God, that's incredible.
that vision is my life because now I'm dreaming up a new one. What's next? Because when you go
Yes.
for a big dream and goal and then you're there, one day you're like, oh, I made it. Oh,
Yes.
crap.
Yes.
What's
I go through
next?
that all the time. I love that.
Now what? Like, what's the next movie, right? For you.
Yes. I just want to go back to that feeling that you were talking about, the sickness, because I I almost fell back into that, right? I went into filmmaking and I was like, yes, I'm here, I'm here. But then I went to my logical brain, okay, line producing, which is the person who handles the budgets and the logistics, but it was not my part of the dream. My part of the dream was the creative side, the directing, the
Yeah.
writing, things like that. But I went to the safe side of logistics and line producing. I started doing that and I was really good at it. So people kept hiring me. I was feeling so sick to my stomach. Every single day I'd come to work and I'd have a headache and I'd feel like I want to throw up and I couldn't sleep and I was so sad. And it's exactly what you were saying. I was ignoring the real dream. And that's when I had to really jump off the cliff and be like, you know what? I've got to listen to the dreams inside of me. It's there for a reason. Listen to your body. Your body is telling you you are unhappy because you are in the wrong place. Why are you in filmmaking if you're not in the sector that you want to be in? So thank you for saying that because I think that's going to be so important for our audience and everyone everywhere to listen to your body. Only you can tell you what you're here for, what you want. Don't ignore it. So thank you for saying that.
Before we keep going, if this conversation is resonating with you, please take a second to like, subscribe, or share it with someone who might need to hear it. It really helps us reach more curious souls, and honestly, this is exactly why we wanted to create this show.
Yes, and if someone came to mind while you were listening, send it to them. They might be meant to hear this too.
The end of my real estate career as a real estate broker manager, I started to get back spasms. And I was like, I just picked up my briefcase one day while thinking this. Why do you get to stay home all day, mister? And I have to go to work. And I was like, oh, my back spasms up. I go to the doctor. There's nothing wrong with me. Nothing. And I had back problems for years. And I had a coach at the time who said, my dad had back problems till he quit his job. And I was like, well, that's not me. That's not me. Eventually, I got let go from that job. And I don't have back problems anymore.
Yeah.
And did I listen to my body right then? I was like, no, I need to exercise more. Go to physical therapy. Maybe this person could help me. Take some pills. If I had listened really, because I got a nod from the universe, from the coach's mouth, my dad quit and his back pain went away. I was like, oh, that's not it. The body does tell us when we're on track and off track. And also sometimes when your goal is really big and still kind of out of your realm, it feels scary. It's not like going for your big goals and dreams are going to just be like, oh, I feel so great in my body. It's going to be the opposite of headaches and throwing up and back pain, but maybe you might get kind of scared. Fear is a stepping stone rather than an obstacle. You can do it anyway. It's a fine line to figure out what's what there.
And also just getting messages along the way, and do we listen to them or do we just let them pass by, right? Like the back, the person saying it, and then ultimately figuring
I
it
got
out
canned.
later.
So it's like the universe is going to go, okay,
Yes.
maybe you should quit this job. Maybe you should quit this job. Maybe you should quit. Okay, you're going to get fired.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Yes. When I was just finished film school, I was like, oh my God, I got to actually become a filmmaker now. But I had been bartending my whole, like for 10 years, right? At the biggest clubs, the biggest, nicest bars. And after film school, I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do for money. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. So I applied to a bartending job down in Santa Monica. I've never not gotten hired. That's how much experience I have. Okay. I went to this interview and they're like, okay, name like the top 3 vodkas. And I went blank. I was like, I've been like bartending for 10 years and I could not tell you a vodka, which is like crazy. And after the interview, they're like, I'm sorry, you don't have this job. But it was like almost like my body was like, no, you're not going back to this. You've got bigger
It's like you
things
had
to
a guardian
do.
angel who just
Who
stole
just
the words out of your mouth.
stole my voice. I couldn't believe something that was so like second nature to me. My body was like, nope. It was crazy.
Then what was the next step? Like, where did it lead you next?
Honestly, it led to you and Sean and Sean's her husband. I had produced her thesis and I was just getting out of school, but you guys had graduated like a couple years before me. Sean started hiring me on commercials and like I started like to see that I could work this, like I can make money off of this, and that you guys actually gave me my first opportunities to see that this is like a career.
Wow.
I know.
That's amazing.
I know.
That is
Oh,
so
that's
great.
so cool.
I love that this conversation went from actual dreams to like dreams
To reality.
to
Yeah.
reality and like what we want in our lives. Where can you see that cross section, like literally, right? Like, where did we take dream to mean goals and aspirations when it was initially probably meaning or what we're actually dreaming at night? I don't know which one came before the other, but like,
That's a good question.
where's that cross section? Because obviously that's where it took us in this conversation.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because something I use in my marketing, for lack of a better word, is something my other daughter, who when she was 4 asked me this question. We're driving somewhere. I don't know. If you guys have kids, you know what it's like. There's a back seat and there's kids back there talking to you. You're driving.
Chaos.
She says, "Mommy, which is real? When we're dreaming or when we're awake?"
Wow.
That's deep. That's very deep.
I said, "What do you think, honey?" And she said, "I think they're both real."
Yes.
Now, studies show us that up until age 7 or something, kids spend a lot of their waking life in the brainwave energy of sleeping and dreaming.
Oh.
So when you see a little toddler being super spaced out, staring at a flower, imagine they're in a dream. They don't know if they're awake or in a dream, and then the flower is so cool. So what is reality?
Exactly.
Yeah. Is it what we focus on, maybe? You know,
I hate
whatever
to use
dimension we're in.
I hate to use this quote because he's in the Epstein files, but before that happened, Deepak Chopra was the bomb.
Yes, he was.
He asked this question, which I still think, even though it came out of his mouth, it's a good question or a good statement, that reality is a lucid dream in a vivid now.
Wow.
So to imagine that dreams, what we have at night, are one type of reality, one type of consciousness. Reality is a different kind of consciousness. Meditation is a different kind of consciousness. You're tripping on ayahuasca, that's a different kind of consciousness. But there are all these different realms of being awake and aware and having this human experience. And so some people think that reality is a dream that we can shift and change as if it's a lucid dream. What if waking life is a lucid dream? Kind of like Matrix concept, right?
Exactly.
So what is real? What is real?
Yeah.
I don't know. If nothing is real or if everything is real and we can shift and change it, then why not play?
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
This is the
Yes.
question that I want to
Yes.
know. And this is like exactly, I mean,
Yes.
just like how malleable it could be and how
Yeah.
much we can really just put our effort and our mind and our thoughts into like what it is that we actually really want to see, to do, to achieve, whatever it might be. I think that there's
Yeah.
just so much opportunity. And like you said, all these different types of consciousness, they're just all different ways that we could tap in to something that's not as, you know, black and white.
Yes, to think about what is real. Is this real or is it not? And if, especially if something's happening that you don't like, you're like, this is just a dream and I'm gonna morph it. I'm gonna not
Yeah.
pay attention to what I don't like. I'm gonna pay attention to what I do like. I'm gonna get whatever you pay attention to, you get more of when you're
Yes.
awake. That's like a way to work with the dream state of being awake. It's so trippy when you think about it.
I think that's so important to realize, though, to having the awareness that you can have a million dreams, things running through your head, thoughts,
Uh-huh.
messiness. You can have good dreams, bad dreams, but it's what you focus on and what you really put your attention to that you can bring into your reality. You know, I could have a nightmare and be like, "Oh my God, I had a horrible dream the other night where someone told me I'm going to effing kill you." I could have done like I could focus on it and be like, "Oh, that person's going to kill me." Or I could just be like, "You know what? I was just rehearsing in my brain of like what that could possibly feel like if that energy was towards me." And I choose to be like, "You know what? I love you despite that. We're fine. We're fine. And I'm going to focus on my beautiful life." He's just sad.
It's so interesting when people tell me dreams about being killed or killing other people. Because
Mm,
what if you shifted it into what part of you would you like to kill? Or what part,
mm.
like it's like an emotion or an action or an activity that you'd like to cut out of your life that person would be, I'm gonna kill you.
Oh,
So what were you
interesting.
doing right before you got killed in that dream?
It was my birthday party, and I had a friend over, and who had just recently divorced her husband. And in the dream, they
Oh.
were back together again. And she was very embarrassed and covering her eyes like this. And he was there just staring at me like, "I'm going to destroy you." And he literally said that. He said, "I'm going to effing kill you. Happy birthday." And he had a he had a shovel in his hand. And he drove away with my friend in the car going like this. I don't know. I feel like what you just said is like, what part of me does he want to kill? Or what part of my subconscious? Maybe it's that I'm here as a support for her. And am I putting myself in danger by being involved? Is it too similar to like what I grew up with? Because my mom was abused and
Oh,
I had
yeah.
to escape that to become who I am today. Is it possibly I don't know. What do you think? Because I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Let's
So, this is such a cool dream
unpack
because,
this.
sorry, it was a nightmare, but your friend is going off with him and she's embarrassed about it. Like she's getting back
Mm,
with him and she's embarrassed. And he's really angry with you,
mhm,
probably because you are her support and
mhm.
Mhm.
you like it that they split up.
Mhm.
And he'd like to
Yes.
kill you or
Mhm.
stop you supporting her. But what's with a shovel? Is he going to kill you with a shovel?
He's gonna
I thought
bury her.
I thought
He's
he
gonna
was going to kill me with a shovel and bury me, yeah.
Wow. So if he could bury you, he could have the girl back.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Marty will always say that she doesn't have dreams, but then, like, every other day, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I had this dream the other day," and I was like, "Yeah, I thought you didn't dream."
Yeah.
And then it's
This is an interesting dream. And how did you feel in the dream? You were terrified that he
I
was actually going to
couldn't
kill you?
breathe. I was like I was gasping for air. I woke up like
Mm.
like that trying to breathe, and I started bawling, and then my baby, because I co-sleep with my baby starts hysterically crying. And I wake
Oh,
up and I'm comforting her, and I'm just like gasping for air. I could not breathe. It was like almost like someone was choking me.
wow. Well, I guess I'd stay away from that guy in case it's a
Yeah.
literal dream meaning.
Yeah.
But also, you could just be tapping into his anger for
Yeah.
that's connected with you being her
Yeah.
friend. And was she at this party in real life? Or did you really have a party and then you dreamt
Well,
this?
my birthday's coming up in 6 days. So
Oh,
when he said happy
okay.
birthday, I had forgotten that my birthday was coming up. I was like, oh yeah, my birthday's coming up.
Happy
But
birthday.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
I hope it's not
So,
a premonition. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, sure, right, guy. Like, yeah. Here's what I tell people when they have a dream that's very disturbing and also confusing. You can ask yourself for a dream that explains the dream you don't understand.
Okay.
So you can
Interesting.
say, I want a dream that tells me what this he's going to kill me dream meant.
Yeah.
And bring it to me in a clear way so I completely
Yes.
understand it close to when I wake up so I remember it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
usually, sometimes people write it down on a scrap of paper and put it under their pillow or
Oh my
near
gosh.
their bed.
Okay. My mom did that, and she saw in a dream my father's face before she met him. That is a very
Yeah.
powerful technique
Wait,
that I should
so
try.
can
Yes.
we actually say this again? Like, let's talk about what do we need to do? What are we trying to
Yes,
accomplish?
slow it down.
Like,
Yes.
okay, let's go back and walk through this.
To incubate a dream, you set the intention at night that you want to dream about something. You can write it on a scrap of paper and put it under your pillow or near your bed. Or you can just say out loud, I want to dream about this. I want an answer to this. And invite your guides and angels and relatives on the other side to come to you in dreamland and tell you what to do next. What should I or shouldn't I? Will I or won't I?
And Marty, what was your mom asking for?
So my mom, as a young girl, she was like 14 years old, her and her sisters wanted to see who they were going to marry. So they wrote down, who am I going to marry? And they cut it into a heart and they put it underneath their pillows. And then they went to sleep with that intention. My mom dreamt of a face, of a man's face with a gap between his teeth. And she remembered that face. When she met my father, I think it was, they were like 20 something years old. When she first saw my father's face for the first time, she saw the gap and knew it was him. And
That's so
she
cool.
didn't tell him, but she knew like this is going to be my husband. And they married.
That's
Wow.
so cool. I had somebody tell me a similar dream. She was married at the time. The guy she eventually married, marriage number 2, was married at the time, but she had this dream that she met the love of her life and she hugged him. She lived on the East Coast. This guy lived on the West Coast. She eventually leaves her husband and moves to the West Coast, and she meets the guy. She didn't see his face in the dream, but she hugged this guy and said, oh, this is the guy from my dream, because the hug felt so beautiful. It was exactly like the dream. And then they got married.
It's
Oh, I
She's
love
like,
it.
I dreamed you. I dreamed you.
that's so oh, there's one-offs for me that they're so vivid, and I'm always like, what does it mean? I'm always like, what does it mean? One time I had these synchronicities happening, and it was like one after the other after the other. And then one night I had this very vivid dream where it was my parents and my brother and I, we were in a hotel room, and this huge cockroach goes running across the floor. And the next day I'm like folding my clothes and I'm just thinking like, what does this all mean? And I'm thinking specifically about that cockroach. And I'm like, what does it mean? And I go to the laundry room and I swear that exact same cockroach goes running across the floor. And I was like, I still didn't know what it meant, but I was like, I literally had just asked what that cockroach meant. And then there it was in my waking life. And like, I knew that like I was having this conversation, but I still don't know, right? I think it was just showing up to show me that I had this opportunity to have this conversation and this back and forth. And so I don't know, like I'm always going to be asking what it means, and maybe we can talk about maybe what that cockroach meant, but to
I just want to say,
me,
I think you're a little psychic because this happens to you a lot. Like
it happens to
you
me all
have
the
a
time.
dream and then it happens in real life.
Yes.
Even like small, minute things that are just like, okay, I think you're like seeing the future.
Yeah, but I think to me, maybe it's just that it's happening, regardless of what it means. It's just, you ask, you get a response, right?
Mm.
Um, just like that's why I think like setting the intention before we dream is so fun because you're asking and you're receiving.
Yes, but remember this. When you get the dream, in answer to your question, it's going to be a metaphor. So like one night I was very worried about my business. I was looking at my numbers and my finances were like looking really grim. And I said, I need to know what to do next. What should I do? What should I do? So I did that set the intention for what I wanted to dream about that night. And I had this dream. I'm in a dark hallway, and at the end of the hallway is a lit room with music playing. And in the room with the music, I see my parents slow dancing. And then I wake up and I say to myself, what the F? How does that answer my question? Slow dancing? My parents are both passed over, and they both did love to dance. And I thought, well, I hope in heaven there's dancing and they're having a good
Mm.
time. And also, it took me several days of really pondering this till I get to the answer. What is slow dancing if not relaxing into a beloved? What is slow dancing but just going with the flow? So I was like, oh, I need to stop worrying.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. I think that dreams can come to life and bring you something in so many different ways. Like for one dream I had that was really vivid, there was a hole in my foot. And which was really kind of alarming, right? I could see all the way through my foot. And about like a week later, my sister-in-law sends us a picture of her mom's foot. Her pickup truck had rolled over her foot, and she had like almost the exact hole that I had in her foot. And I was like, what? Like, okay, what's going on? Like, what's this connection? And then about a week or two later, her brother, my sister in law's brother, has an industrialized refrigerator fall on his foot. And now he has the same hole in his foot. And his foot took like a while to heal. And I was like, this is like, what's going on? Like, I didn't cause this situation, right? Like, what is the universe trying to tell me? And so then I get invited to an axe throwing party for a friend's birthday. And I was like, I'm definitely not throwing an axe. Like, I'm not counting the dream as a third time as a charm. I'm counting this axe throwing party as third time. I'm going to sit this one out. And I end up sitting with another friend from the group who I'd never met, and she's pregnant. And of course, I start talking about why I'm sitting out. Like I had this dream, and this thing happened, this thing happened. And it was one of those moments where something profound happens because in that conversation, she was somebody who is an intuitive, an empath, had done all this work with other people who were intuitive. And I just learned from her that like we are all intuitive. We all have that capability. And that for me, my dreams and the signs and the messages that I knew that I was receiving my whole life were just the way that I was able to tap in. It was just almost my superpower, right? And we all have strengths. Some people see colors, some people hear things, some people have very vivid dreams. And up until that moment, I didn't really understand what I was experiencing. And it all started to make sense to me. It was just like one of those little moments that like was big. And like I started journaling that day. She taught me about boundaries, setting boundaries with energy, saying no to certain things. And so I just it like I think that that was what the point was, right? Like that it was all these things coming to life and then setting me up to like start talking about it because that's the reason I was sitting out. And then to just have this moment of revelation about all of us having this opportunity to tap into something that's greater and bigger than what we can actually see with our eyes. Or, I guess some of us could see things with our eyes, right? That others can't. So, but what we normally can see in this reality that we think is what our reality is.
I love that. A lot of people are, just like you were, kind of disturbed when they have premonition dreams. They're like, why am I dreaming that this thing is happening? What's it have to do with me? So if you're not a professional psychic or talking about, world events, then maybe some of the dreams are just to wake you up to the fact that you do have this clair, one of the clairs, you're
Yeah.
clairvoyant or you're clairaudient or you're clairsentient. So to remind us that we're living in this mystical, magical reality. It's not just cut and dried. It's not just what the materialists would say it is. It's not just what we can touch and feel. There's more.
Yeah.
There's more. And it's so beautiful.
What is it, do you think, that from this conversation that you think that our listeners should take away?
Well, holy cow, they might have to listen to it a couple times. We started out talking about dreams that we have at night. Then we started talking about dreams that we have, big goals and dreams we have in life. And then we started talking about the nature of reality. So I guess back to dreams, because I think most people are mystified by nighttime dreams. I would just remind them that you can write down your dreams in this 4-way way that we shared. What day is it? Where are you? What's happening in waking life? And then the dream. And you can basically just put it away and think about it. Those dreams that are really loud or scary or recurring, they're the most important ones. They're coming here to scare you awake. They're coming over and over again until you get the frickin' message. So those are the ones to really pay attention to, unless you're trying to make something happen in life and you're letting your dreams guide you. So write them down, people. Write them down. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much. This has been so eye-opening and beautiful. Thank you for giving me insight into what's in my psyche. I know you've helped me today, and I know with Cristina as well. And I'm so excited to know all of this and to spread these messages to our audience. So thank you.
We're so grateful for your experience and insight, and I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Please like and share.
And you can subscribe at thecurioussoulpodcast.com for all things curious.